All right, in this video, I'm going to give you a walkthrough of how to submit a deal to Call the Underwriter for underwriting. The way you do that is you submit a term sheet form to us. You can get that from the website in a number of places. If you go at the top here, submit a deal. Further down, I believe it says term sheets, but basically you click any of these links and it brings you into a form. This is the form we use to intake new deals. So it's broken up into 5 pages. This first one is your lender contact information. So we'll need your name of the company uh, that is originating the loan. Typically, people are doing these through LLCs or other things, your email address, your phone number, and then I always like to ask how people found us. So I'll just put in some dummy data for now to kind of get this going. Note too that all the fields with the red stars, those are required. This is information that we absolutely need to underwrite the file. Uh, as we get into this, there's some other fields that aren't as required. So after you submitted your lender information, we'll ask on information for your borrower or borrowers. This first question, have you had initial pre-screen conversation or had them use the pre-screen form to determine if you expect them to qualify? This is just a check. I mean, it's a really critical step in the process. I always highly recommend pre-screening your borrowers to look for red flags, foreclosures, bankruptcies. Can they document their income? That kind of thing before you make an agreement with them to sell them a property and start going through the underwriting process and all those other things. Most of the showstopper issues you can suss out early. So this question is here just as kind of a reminder to do that if you haven't. If you say, no, I haven't pre-screened them, we're still going to underwrite the file. It just means for you, there's a higher chance that the borrower may not work out. Will your borrower need assistance filling out the application from a native speaker? We do have someone on staff who can assist with this if we need it. I know a lot of clients have, Spanish speaking borrowers, I-10 borrowers, that kind of thing, and they request that. We've actually found most of the times people really don't need our help to do this. Usually either the borrower can handle it themselves or they have a family member. Oftentimes there's an agent involved who speaks Spanish, but either way, we do have someone available who can help should you need that. And then we'll need the borrower's primary borrower's name, their email address, cell phone, and then same for the co-borrower if there is one. If there's not a co-borrower, you just leave it blank. So I'll just autofill this with my name to keep going. And then we have the information on the subject property. So what's the occupant? See, is this the borrower's primary residence? Is it a second home? Is it an investment property? Most of the time on these, it is a primary residence. If it's an investment property, Dodd-Frank and some of those other rules don't apply, although we do underwrite a lot of investment properties for investors because they like the idea of having their borrower go through this process. It tells them something about the credit worthiness of their borrower, and then also even if it's an investment property, like they're renting it, they like knowing that the borrower has enough income to pay the loan should they not have it rented for some reason. But most of them are primary residents. We can put in the subject property address and then the property type. Most of these are detached single families. We also do a lot of underwriting for mobile homes as well. And then you can put multifamily commercial. We don't really do too much, but a lot of this information is kind of boilerplate information that goes into loan origination systems. And so we set it up to be very compatible with that. So attached single family. The property sales price that you've agreed to, I'll just make up some numbers here, say 250. The original balance, so your new loan amount, so this will be the amount that the borrower will actually be borrowing. The lien type, you can kind of select all that apply, mostly their first position. Sometimes people are creating second position loans. If it's a wrap or a subject to loan, we don't always necessarily need to know that, but sometimes questions come up later in the process. So this is just to give us kind of a heads up and awareness of what's going on, because sometimes it creates a little bit of confusion if it's like a subject to deal and we don't know that going in. If the borrower has made an earnest money deposit, we need to know that. The down payment amount, the interest rate you've agreed to, the loan term, and then your principal and interest payment. I'm just making up numbers. Now, if it's a mobile home, there's, typically an additional lot rent as well. You can give us this here so we can factor that into all of the escrows as well as the borrower's debt to income. And then your estimated annual property tax, you can usually get this through Zillow. If you're not sure, we can look it up on Zillow. And then your estimate of the annual insurance. And then whether you want your taxes and insurance escrowed. Generally, it's a good idea to do that. Okay, so that's our subject property information and loan terms. So now we get into the fees and the closing information. This is one area that can create a little bit of confusion, and sometimes as a lender, you have opportunities here that you may not be aware of. So question one, will the borrower pay the underwriting fee at closing? The vast majority of clients do pass this fee on to the borrower at closing. I highly recommend you do that. As you know, we will invoice you as the lender directly. By law, we're required to do that because we work on behalf of lenders. We don't work on behalf of borrowers. But if you include that, it's completely reasonable and customary for the borrower to pay that fee at closing. So basically, you end up floating the fee for some period of time. The other opportunity that sometimes people miss is if using a licensed loan servicer, which I recommend. You can also pass those fees on to the borrower. I haven't really seen borrowers push back on that. Again, these are discussions you want to have when you're agreeing to the deal. You don't want to come to this with the borrower to the borrower afterwards. Let's say there's a monthly servicing fee and then a loan origination fee. So you as a lender have the right to charge your own loan origination fee, above and beyond an underwriting fee or anything else that's in there. Um, Most seller financiers don't just know that it's an option that you can. Sometimes they have like a 1% fee in there. Just know that overall there are legal limits on the total amount, some total amount of fees that can be charged to a borrower at closing. It is typically 3% of the total loan amount, although there are caveats and corner cases where that number can be different. But in most scenarios, 3% total, so that would like include the 799, is the legal maximum, although it's best practice not to go above 2%. Whether say our loan origination fee is 0. And then if there's anything else charged to the borrower, don't expect there to be. These would be kind of unusual corner cases, but it's a field just in case there is something. Would you like us to help you sell the note after closing? That's something we do now and then. Your desired closing date. One thing to call out is that generally speaking, it's best to get this term sheet to us at least 2 weeks before you plan to close. The big reason for that is to comply with TRID. We need to get the loan estimate to your borrower 7 business days before you close. So if you figure the time for the borrower to get their information to us, we have time to do the underwrite. We send out the loan estimate, you review the loan estimate, we send the final loan estimate, and then we start the 7 business day clock. 2 weeks can go pretty quick. Start a date in there. And then if there's a title company, a closing agent you're working with, we don't have to have this information. We don't work generally directly with uh, the title companies or closing companies or transactions coordinators, but it's kind of helpful for us because sometimes people will ping us and ask for status and updates and things like that, that we know who they are if they're in play. And then the special notes for us, anything else we should know? This is just in case you have any kind of unusual terms, anything out of the ordinary that you want us to be aware of. And then you can also attach copies of the borrower's IDs. Again, a lot of these fields are not required. If you have the actual insurance declaration sheet, that's always nice. Copy of the contract, because we can If you are already under contract and you can upload that to us, that allows us to go through too and kind of double check all of the terms. And then just this last check, you know, saying that you agree to all of the terms and conditions. So at that point, you can submit the term sheet to us. You'll get some emails back with links for the borrower to fill out to submit their information and continue on in the process.